Hey, YouTubers and YouTube, welcome back to another episode of Wray's Garage. Today we're going to be talking about spacers, and I'm hoping you can see on your screen here. These are the spacers we're going to use on the Spyder, and this is known as the flush kit for the VW Golf R. Now, when I ordered the flush kit for the Golf R, I was just putting my faith in ECS tuning, which is where I picked all this gubbins up at, to know sizing for that. Honestly, when I've been considering doing this for some time on the Spyder, but didn't really have full conviction in what I wanted to do. So the consensus appears to be that for functional stands, 15 millimeters in the rear, and I think 7 or 8 up front is the way to go. Now, when you're looking at spacers, there are many cheap options on eBay. I want to say that each of these sets, including the elongated lugs that you would need to fit this to your wheel and rotor, were about $200 per set. So $200 per car to do this job, including all the hardware you would need. Oftentimes, if you go on an eBay situation, you're probably not going to get the right hardware or hardware at all. And then hub centricity is critical to getting that fitment. So you don't, if you don't have hub centricity, take this lip out. Hopefully you can see that. There, that lip. And that sits over the hub in the center of the wheel. If you don't have that, you essentially have the risk of some float. And if you're doing any kind of high performance driving, canyon carving, there's risk of certain amount of movement in there. So hub centricity, no matter what flavor of spacer you go for, is pretty important. And then obviously choosing how much space you put in there. I definitely wanted to get the look a little better, get them pretty much flush, which the flush kit suggested to me that's what we're going to get in the Golf R. And then on the Spyder, similar kind of look. I know I've got the better stance now through the suspension. Just want to push those wheels out a hair more. Hardware-wise, another thing you get is elongated screws to where you can connect these points to the rotor. But anyway, I'm going to show you some before and after, try and get some good footage so you can see side by side. So I'll do one side of the car at a time. And you can see whether you like the look, don't like the look, whether you'd go more or less. And hopefully that's the education on spacers. The spacer modification is just as simple as taking your wheels on and off with this added little layer in between. So very simple. I would encourage anybody to take on the task. So long as you've got the right thicknesses, the hub centricity is my recommendation, and the right hardware here, I would say most anybody can do this. Since I didn't mention it, it turns out that these are different, the size of the actual spacer. However, the thickness is the same. This is the Porsche one, this is the VW one, so the hub is much smaller on the VW wheels. Still 15 millimeters in the rear. Up front, the flush kit that I bought came with a 10 mil front. So it's actually pushing out more than the Spyder will be. So we'll see how that looks. All right, so while I acknowledge that many of you know how to take your wheels off, I'm going to do it just for the sake of completeness. So I'm gonna get on this pinch weld right here. I'm not gonna lift the car just yet, because what I wanna do is crack the bolts so that I don't have to have the wheels spin on us. And these, I'm not sure if it's all Golfs do this, but they have these plastic wheel covers on, and there's a better tool to pull these out that comes in the kit in the back of the car, but I just use a pick. You will need your security lock if you have one on, which I won't be replacing using this new hardware. I'm gonna loosen this up, I'm gonna find the lock for that, and then we're gonna lift the car. So this car runs off of a 17 mil socket. Ouch, oof. Don't do that. That's where those wheel holders come in handy, the little wheel stalks that they make. Not used to the wheel just jumping off like that. Okay, so here's the hub. Everything looks good here. While we're in, we'll take a look. Yeah, I think we're in a good place. So let's make sure this sits on there okay. And then spin until you have access to, I guess there's one behind here. That's awesome. Ha. All right. So the spacer's on now. On the Golf here, we don't have the screws to go into the rotor here, so I'm assuming that's normal and fine. But it seems to sit on here well. Have it lined up. I'm gonna go get my wheel stalk so I don't have any more accidents. So hopefully you can see this little wheel stalk. This one happens to be Schwaben. I'm sure they're not the only ones in the world that make this, but I do recall getting this from ECS once upon a time. Okay, so the hub-centric deal means that we get good access. Let's try and get one of these secured. Then we drop it, torque it down. I'll go do the rear and I'll show you what we get. So I decided not to torque down the front just yet. I'll do these when I get the back down, but you can see this time I'm putting the stalk in there so we don't lose a wheel. So I think it's 120 Newton meters, because apparently when you talk to Volkswagen, you have to go European, but that's 88 foot-pounds, so whatever language you speak metrically or imperially, feels like a Star Wars movie. So I'm gonna dial this down to 88. That's at 88. It'll make a chime when I get there, but because I'm using a breaker bar, it goes through pretty quick. I'll do a walk around now and we'll do the side-by-side. So this is the driver's side, which is done. The passenger is not. We'll see how it looks. So before I even get started here, I think it's going to be really hard to improve much upon this. I absolutely love this wheel and tire combo. So I'm going to put a link up to Apex. These wheels they look great. They've held up great. This satin black is always a difficult color to make look good all the time. It's easy to clean. Now I did ceramic coat those to help the cleaning, but absolutely love them. I'm sure I hope you think they look great too. So I just thought I would show this wheel just because there is that slight nuance in the rotor where we're going to have to remove the screws from the rotor and replace with the new longer ones and basically better attach the new spacer to the wheel. So we'll get this thing unlocked, get the show on the road.
There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we want. Playing games, no. There's no denying what we want. There's no denying what we want. Playing games, no. There's no denying what we want.
So as you can see here, this requires a specific orientation, which I didn't anticipate. So there's grooves here where it's going to sit on the hub, and I want to make sure we line up with holes that we can get plugged in the rotor to. Obviously, the holes for the wheels too are pretty critical to get aligned here. Is this it? All right. Well, it's not sitting snug yet. Let's see if we can snug it up with these screws here. Come on. All right, so yeah, the hollow cutouts in this 8mm one are in order that you get the orientation just right, and there is only one orientation, otherwise you're not going to be staring at the bolts. So, glad I showed you. Not glad I didn't check it first so I could look a little smarter, but hey, welcome to YouTube. YouTube life, hashtag. Alrighty. The car's not leaking. It's me sweating like a maniac. Alrighty. Make sure you grab your new lugs, because they're longer, as you can see here, for her pleasure. So these black wheels make it really hard for me to film for you, but hopefully you can see how that's nice and kind of barely protruding, just looks a little bit more menacing. Similar situation here. Kind of see how it nicely is sticking out. I'm going to go over around here, show you from behind. So that's the stance. I'll hopefully be able to brighten it up in post. And then if I come around here to the non-adjusted side, again, didn't look bad by any stretch. And these fronts just look so good. But just a little better. So I'm gonna finish the job. We'll do a full walk around here. All right, so I hopefully won't blind you out here, but I think it's the best way to see it. So this is the Spyder all spaced out. Well, as you can tell, that's another sweaty job handled here in Wray's garage. And it is a very easy job. I happen to be on 2 cars trying to do shoots, so you could kind of see the wheels and how they would flare into the arches. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. Some of the light wasn't as cooperative as I would have liked, but hopefully this gave you a mild education on spacers. You can explore whether or not you'd want to do that. Remember, I went 15-8, 15 rear, 8 front on the Spyder, and then I think it was 15 rear, 10 front, and that's millimeters on the Golf R. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if that's your jam. If not, I hope you take all this free information and enjoy your car experiences. See you next time, everyone. Bye now.